The sun beat down hard on the concrete parade ground, turning the air thick and sharp with heat. Boots struck the surface in perfect rhythm as recruits moved through their drill cycle. Push-ups, low crawls, rapid transitions, each motion designed to break hesitation and expose weakness. Sweat-soaked uniforms, dust clung to skin. No one spoke unless ordered to. She moved silently among them. Her name on the uniform read R. Carter, stitched plainly without decoration. No bragging patches. No stories, just a recruit's name and a calm, unreadable face. She wasn't the fastest on the ground, but she never stopped. Her breathing stayed controlled. Her eyes never wandered. Every motion was efficient, deliberate, almost too controlled for someone who was supposed to be new. The sergeant noticed he had been watching her for several drills now. Tall, broad-shouldered, voice sharp enough to cut steel. He thrived on dominance. Fear made recruits sloppy, and sloppy recruits were easy to mold. "Or break, Carter," he barked. She snapped her head up instantly. "Yes, Sergeant." Her tone was neutral, not fearful, not eager. That irritated him. "You think you're special?" he asked, circling her like a predator. "You're moving like this is a war, mup." "No, Sergeant." He leaned closer. "Then why aren't you shaking like the rest of them?" She held his gaze. "Because I'm focused, Sergeant." A few recruits swallowed hard. "You didn't answer like that, not unless you wanted attention." He smiled, but it wasn't humor, it was permission. "Get down," he ordered. "Low crawl, now." She dropped instantly, chest to concrete, elbows digging in as she began moving forward. Smooth, controlled, too smooth, faster. She increased speed. Faster. She pushed harder, muscles tightening under the uniform, breath still steady. That was when he snapped. As she passed him, the sergeant stepped forward and kicked her leg out from under her hard. Not a correction, not a training tap. A full-force strike meant to humiliate. Her body hit the ground with a sharp crack. A collective gasp rippled through the formation. She slid, scraped, stopped. For half a second, everything froze. The sergeant expected a scream, a sob, rage instead. She pushed herself calmly onto her elbows. Slowly, she turned her head and looked up at him. Her face wasn't angry, it was cold. "I'm a Navy SEAL," she said quietly. Not loud enough for the whole field, just enough for him. He laughed. "Oh, really?" he sneered. "You think lying will save you?" She didn't repeat herself. She didn't argue. She simply shifted her weight, subtly, almost imperceptibly. The sergeant stepped closer, fury flashing in his eyes. "You don't speak unless—" He never finished the sentence. In 2 movements, the drill field changed forever. Her left arm shot out, trapping his knee as her hips rotated sharply. At the same time, her right leg swept behind his ankle. Not wide, not dramatic, but surgically precise. The force didn't come from strength. It came from leverage. There was a sound, not a scream, a wet, hollow crack. The sergeant collapsed sideways, his balance gone before his brain could catch up. His leg folded in a direction legs were never meant to bend. He hit the ground screaming. Recruits stumbled backward in shock. Someone shouted for a medic. Dust hung in the air like smoke. She was already standing, calm, steady, hands open. No follow-through strike, no aggression, just control. She stepped back, posture straight, eyes forward, as if she had simply completed a drill. The sergeant writhed on the concrete, clutching his leg, face pale with pain and disbelief. "Medic!" Someone yelled again. Boots thundered as officers ran toward the scene. She didn't move. When the first officer arrived and looked from the screaming sergeant to the silent woman standing at attention, he hesitated. "What happened?" he demanded. She spoke evenly. "Sergeant applied unauthorized force," she said. "I neutralized the threat." The officer stared at her. "Neutralized?" "Yes, sir." The medics arrived, cutting the sergeant's pant leg open. One of them looked up, eyes wide, and whispered something to the other. The officer followed his gaze to the way she stood, to her hands, to her eyes, not a recruit's eyes, a veteran's. The drill field, moments ago filled with shouting and motion, had gone silent, and somewhere in that silence the truth began to surface. The screaming stopped before the dust settled, not because the pain was gone, but because the reality had finally arrived. The sergeant lay on the concrete, face twisted, teeth clenched so hard his jaw trembled. Medics knelt beside him, hands moving fast, professional, but their eyes betrayed something else: shock. One of them carefully lifted the torn fabric from his leg and froze. "Don't move him," the medic said quietly. The officer nearest leaned in. "How bad?" The medic swallowed. "His tibia's gone, knee ligaments too. This isn't a fall." The officer straightened slowly. Across the drill field, recruits stood frozen in loose formation. No one dared whisper. No one dared look away. They all felt it. That shift in the air when authority cracks and something older, something sharper, takes its place. She stood exactly where she had stopped. Feet shoulder width apart, hands relaxed at her sides, eyes forward, not shaking, not breathing hard, waiting. The base commander arrived within minutes, followed by 2 senior officers. Their boots echoed sharply against the concrete as they took in the scene. The medics, the injured sergeant, the silent formation, and finally her. "Who did this?" the commander asked. No one answered. The commander's gaze locked on her. "You, recruit, step forward." She did. One measured step, posture perfect. "Name," he said. "Carter, Rebecca." She replied. "What happened here?" She didn't rush. She didn't dramatize. "The sergeant used excessive force during a drill," she said. "He struck me without cause. I issued a verbal warning. When he advanced, I applied a defensive counter to stop further harm." The commander frowned. "You issued a verbal warning?" "Yes, sir." "What did you say?" She met his eyes calmly. "I identified myself." A beat passed. "And how did you identify yourself?" he asked. She answered evenly. "I told him I was a Navy SEAL." A ripple of disbelief moved through the officers. "That's a serious claim." One of them snapped. "Yes, sir. You expect us to believe you were assigned here without clearance." Another added, "No, sir. I was reassigned with clearance." The commander studied her again, really studied her this time. The stillness, the balance, the way she stood without effort. "What unit?" he asked. She hesitated for the first time. Then, "I'm not authorized to disclose that on an open drill field, sir." That answer landed harder than any boast. The commander turned to his aide. "Get her file, now." Minutes passed. The medics loaded the sergeant onto a stretcher. As they lifted him, he screamed again, raw, animal fear this time. "Arrest her," he gasped. "She attacked me." No one moved. The commander didn't look at him. His attention was on the tablet now in his aide's hands. The color drained from the aide's face. "Sir," he said quietly, this can't be right." The commander took the tablet. As he read, his jaw tightened. He looked up at her. "Recruit Carter," he said slowly, "why does your file list 6 years of classified operational service?" Followed by a transfer order signed at the highest level. She answered softly, "Because I was told to start over, sir." The drill field felt suddenly very small. One of the senior officers exhaled sharply. "She's prior special operations." "Not prior," the commander corrected. "Active." He stepped closer to her. "Why didn't you disclose this during intake?" he asked. "Because I was ordered not to," she replied. "I was instructed to observe, comply, and intervene only if necessary." "And you felt this was necessary?" She nodded once. "Yes, sir." The commander glanced at the ambulance pulling away, siren fading, then back at her. "What exactly did you do to him?" he asked. She answered clinically, "Inside knee reap combined with rotational hip torque. Standard close. Quarters takedown." One of the officers winced. That move is banned in training environments. Yes, sir, she said. So is assault. Silence. The commander turned to the formation. Drill is over. He barked. Dismissed. Recruits scattered, stunned, whispering despite themselves. The commander looked back at her. You, he said, you're coming with us? She nodded. Yes, sir. As she walked away between the officers, the concrete still warm beneath her boots, one truth settled heavily over the base. This hadn't been a mistake. It had been a test, and someone had just failed it permanently. The conference room was cold in a way that had nothing to do with air conditioning. Rebecca Carter stood at ease near the wall, hands behind her back, eyes forward. No cuffs, no guards, that alone said everything. Outside the reinforced windows, the base moved as if nothing had happened. Vehicles rolling, distant drills continuing. But inside the room, time felt suspended. The door opened, then another, then another. 4 men entered in sequence, each one wearing the same rank on his collar. Eagles, silver and unmistakable. No one announced them. No one needed to. Conversation died instantly. The base commander stood. So did everyone else. Colonels, he said. The senior among them didn't return the greeting. He placed a folder on the table instead. Thick, red, bordered, stamped multiple times. Sit, he ordered. They did. Only Rebecca remained standing. One of the colonels finally looked at her, not at her uniform, not at her name tape, but at her eyes. He studied them for a long second, then nodded once, almost imperceptibly. At ease, he said. She shifted, slightly, relaxed, but not casual. The senior colonel opened the folder. Sergeant Mark Havorson. He read aloud, 17 years of service, 8 disciplinary warnings, 2 sealed investigations, 1 medical retirement pending as of today. He closed the folder with a soft thud. He will never walk unassisted again. The colonel continued. His career is over. His command authority is revoked. Effective immediately. No one spoke. The colonel turned his attention to the base commander. Why? He asked calmly. Was an operator with active special warfare status placed under the authority of a non-cleared training sergeant. The commander swallowed. Sir, her file was restricted. Another colonel cut in. Yes, we know. A third colonel leaned forward. What you don't know, he said, is that this reassignment was deliberate. The commander blinked, sir. The senior colonel stood and walked slowly around the table, stopping directly in front of Rebecca. Carter, he said quietly. Yes, sir. Do you know why you were sent here? Yes, sir. Say it. To evaluate internal discipline, she replied, and identify command failures. The colonel nodded. And did you? Yes, sir. He turned back to the room. The sergeant wasn't the problem, he said. He was a symptom. A ripple of unease spread among the officers, unchecked authority. The colonel continued. Unauthorized physical force, a culture where fear replaces training, that ends today. He tapped the folder again. Rebecca Carter did not attack a superior officer. He said flatly, she defended herself against unlawful force. The technique she used was restrained. One officer couldn't help himself. Restrained, sir. He lost his leg. The colonel's eyes snapped to him. She could have killed him, he said, in under 3 seconds. Instead, she chose a disabling option. Silence fell heavier than before. Another colonel spoke, voice measured. Do you know what it takes to sever the structural integrity of a knee without shattering the femur? No one answered. Control, he said. Precision, experience. He turned to Rebecca. How many times have you used that technique in the field? She answered without hesitation. Enough, sir. The senior colonel exhaled slowly. This base, he said, failed her. The words hung in the air like a verdict. He faced Rebecca again. You were ordered to remain silent unless necessary, he said. You complied. Yes, sir. You were assaulted. Yes, sir. You neutralized the threat with minimal force. Yes, sir. The colonel nodded once more. Well done. It wasn't loud, it wasn't ceremonial, but every person in that room understood the weight of those two words. The colonel turned to the base commander. "There will be a full review," he said. "Every instructor, every drill policy, anyone who confuses brutality with leadership will be removed." "Yes, sir," the commander said quietly. The colonels gathered their folders. As they moved toward the door, the senior one paused. "Carter," he said. "Yes, sir. You're done pretending." She met his eyes. "Report to Special Warfare Command at 0600 tomorrow," he continued. "Your evaluation is complete." She nodded. "Understood, sir." The door closed behind them. Only then did the base commander let out a breath he'd been holding. He looked at Rebecca, not with suspicion now, but something closer to respect. "You really are a Navy SEAL," he said. She answered calmly, exactly as she had on the drill field. "Yes, sir." And for the first time since she arrived on the base, no one doubted her.